What if one day, all you have left is you? Learn to love yourself before time runs out. You still have time. There's a kind of silence that hurts more than any harsh word. It's the one that appears when you speak, and no one really listens. It's not noise, it's absence. It feels like your presence is slowly fading, as if you're becoming invisible in your own home. You try, you comment, you search for a glance, a reaction, but all you get is a yeah, or nothing at all. And then comes the question that cuts deep. Have I stopped mattering? Today, I want to tell you something you may have never heard, but always deserved. Stay with me until the end, because maybe the love you've been searching for first needs to be born within you. There's a pain that almost no one sees, because it doesn't scream, it doesn't bleed, but it weighs, like a backpack you've carried for years, without realizing how much it's bent your back. It's the pain of speaking and feeling like no one really listens anymore. And the strangest part is, the more life you've lived, the more stories, feelings, and wisdom you've gathered, the less space it seems there is for your voice in the world. Do you feel that? As if you've been pushed to the invisible corner of the conversation, as if, after 50, your words have become background noise, as if people expect you to simply nod, agree, smile. The I already know culture is everywhere. They think they get what you're going to say before they've heard it. They finish your sentences, or check their phones while you open your heart. But what hurts isn't just being interrupted, it's being prejudged as someone predictable, as if your life experience is nothing more than a set of rules, and not a whole soul, with doubts, desires, and emptiness. Maybe you've felt it, being treated as someone who knows too much, and because of that, is no longer seen as someone who feels. And the worst part? When it happens inside your own home, you look into your child's eyes, but what you find isn't warmth. It's a glass wall. You see them, but you can't get through. You're not trying to control anything. You just want to be heard as a whole person, not just as someone who's always there to fix, to organize, to support. Yes, you have advice. You have insight, but you also have fears, vulnerabilities, wounds that still sting. And there's something deeply lonely about realizing that people only seek you when they need something, but vanish when your soul needs a place to rest. That's why your voice feels empty. That's why there's an echo in your chest. It's like life left you in an airport terminal, waiting for someone who promised to come back, but never did. And maybe what's most urgent now isn't being heard by others, but learning to listen to yourself again. Your voice is still alive. It's just hidden behind all the things you never said. And when that inner listening returns, the world begins to sound different. Silence doesn't always come from outside. Sometimes it's us who start turning the volume down inside. Not all at once, but slowly, like closing a window because of the wind, and forgetting to reopen it when the sun returns. The truth is, you never stopped speaking. You just learned to say less, only what's needed, to avoid long pauses, to laugh at the right moments, to hide what truly hurt, so you wouldn't seem fragile or exhausting or too much. Maybe you did it to keep the peace, to avoid conflict, to stop hearing, here you go again with that. And that's how you started disappearing, not from the world, but from yourself. Disguised resignation has another name, silent exhaustion. And it lives in those who've tried too hard, who've spoken from the heart too many times, and found no response. We stop trying. We stop bringing up certain things. We get used to shallow conversations. And worse, we start believing this is just how it is, that it's not worth insisting. But deep down, there's still a scream unspoken. The soul feels it. The soul always feels it. It shrinks, like a flower no longer watered, like a flame that burns inward only, lighting no one else. And in trying not to be a burden, you become a much smaller version of everything you still are, and no one notices. Because you always wear that same polite smile, that same strategic calm, that same "I'm fine" that only fools those who don't truly look into your eyes. Maybe today is the day to look at this, with gentleness, with courage, without rushing. Maybe you'll remember a sentence you swallowed, something you wanted to say, but didn't. You don't need to shout it now. Just write it. For you. Only for you. On a folded note. In an old notebook. In a safe space. Because sometimes, the first step to existing again is letting your soul hear what the world refused to listen to. And it doesn't matter how much time has passed. You can still reclaim your voice. It never left. It just went quiet, waiting for you to return. You got used to being the backbone, the one who solves things. Who cares? Who anticipates everyone's needs. And on the outside, everything seems fine. But inside, there's a tiredness without a name. Because when your voice becomes just another tool for caregiving, people start listening to you through a filter of function. They hear what you do, but not what you feel. They take your advice, but don't see your weariness, and that hardens you little by little. Not because you want to be, but because no one seems to ask. And you, how are you really doing? It's a subtle trap. You help so much. No one imagines that you also need help. You're so good at holding everyone up. They forget you might fall too. And when you fall alone. Maybe you know this moment. One random day, your body begs for rest. You walk into the bathroom, close the door, and the tears come without warning. Not because of one thing, but because of everything. And the scariest part isn't crying. It's no longer knowing exactly why. Your soul is screaming, but no one hears. And you, always the strong one, have learned to cry in silence. Because you're afraid that if you speak up, no one will know what to do with your pain. It's as if, over the years, you made a pact with the world. I'll carry it all. Just leave me be. But peace without being heard is abandonment. And abandoning yourself is the most dangerous kind of all. Have they stopped listening? Or did you stop showing that you feel too? Maybe the strength that always kept you standing is now asking for something else. Not to keep resisting, but to be recognized. Recognize that you too need comfort, need care, need presence. And the most beautiful part? When you start listening to yourself honestly, others begin to listen too. Your humanity doesn't weaken you, it brings you back to life. There comes a point in life when shouting doesn't work anymore. Actually, it never really did. Raising your voice only shows how much you've already tried every other way. But there's another path. Quieter, deeper, truer. To be heard, you don't need to get louder. You just need to come back to the center of yourself. Because there's a kind of speech that cuts through. It doesn't convince, instruct, or demand. It shares. It comes from a place where life still breathes, despite the exhaustion. Where vulnerability still lives, despite the years. And when words come from that place, they land. They seep in. They stay. The truth is, people hear what moves them, not what weighs on them. They open up to what's offered as presence, not what feels like pressure. Maybe that's why some phrases you've repeated for years no longer seem to work. It's not that they've lost meaning. It's that the way of saying them has hardened over time. They've become habit, function, autopilot. But when you return to speaking from the soul, when you offer a memory instead of a rule, a story instead of a demand, your words find their way again. A simple gesture can change everything. Instead of giving instruction, share a memory. Not to teach anything, but to reveal yourself. Maybe something from your childhood, or the first time you felt afraid and told no one, or the day you felt strong without knowing how. Because when you show up whole, without trying to prove anything, people feel it, and they begin to truly listen, not out of obligation, but out of connection. Winning back someone's ear isn't about winning them back. It's about finding yourself again in your own words. And maybe that's the deepest truth. Being heard starts with how you choose to speak again. There's something in you that time didn't erase, something that may have been buried beneath the silence, the responsibilities, the role of being everything to everyone, but it's still there, even if hidden, even if forgotten, a way of seeing the world that is uniquely yours, a way of feeling that no one else has. And maybe you haven't realized, but there are things only you can say, words born from your walk through life, from what you lost, from what you held together on your own, from what broke you, and what you pieced back together, bit by bit, without anyone noticing. Sometimes what feels like disinterest from others is just built-up distance. Just time slowly stretching the space between hearts until there's no room left for listening. But that can change. And it does when you start showing yourself again. Not with force, but with truth. The words that touch don't try to convince. They come from the soul, with simplicity, with presence, with the soft courage of someone who no longer needs to prove anything. The world listens differently when you've listened to yourself first. Maybe today is a good day to try something new. Speak to yourself in a new way. Maybe record your own voice, alone, in a quiet moment. Say what you've longed to hear from someone, but say it with kindness, with presence, with truth. It's not about technique, it's about tenderness. Because when you speak gently to yourself, something shifts inside, as if a long-lost part of you whispers, "Took you long enough." Your voice regains color when it returns to your heart, and that color, no one can take from you. There's a mistake that hurts more than silence, believing your voice is gone. But the truth is, it never left. It just went quiet, buried beneath the urgency, the obligations, the roles you had to play when there was no one else to hold things together. Each time you swallowed what you felt, to avoid hurting, to avoid disrupting, to avoid seeming fragile, your voice stepped back, not out of weakness, but to protect you, because the soul knows when there's no room, and out of love for you, it learns to wait. But now, maybe for the first time in a long time, you can sit in stillness and listen to that whisper that still lives deep inside. Your voice isn't lost. It's just been waiting for you to return to it. And it doesn't need to be loud. It doesn't need to be eloquent. It just needs to be yours. When you speak to yourself with presence, when you listen with the same care you've given others for so many years, a quiet shift begins. You stop needing to be heard at any cost and start simply being present. A presence that touches without needing to convince. Sometimes what changes everything isn't what you say, but how you show up in your words again. Not trying to please, not hiding, not translating your feelings just to keep the peace. Just saying what is. Just feeling what comes. Just being who still lives there, even after years of trying to fit into everyone else's space. Maybe today is the day to say something just for you. Not to please, not to solve, but to remember you're still alive, whole, here. You still have time. Time to listen again, to welcome yourself, gently, to be the companion you've always been to others, but forgot to be for yourself. And in that quiet, simple gesture, you begin again, not because everything changed out there, but because something finally began breathing again inside. Your voice has been waiting. Now it has someone to talk to. We spend a lifetime trying to be useful, keeping everyone afloat, juggling the deadlines, the duties, the promises, and somewhere in all that, our own soul gets left for later. But later has a limit. And when the body starts whispering through exhaustion, when the eyes lose themselves in the mirror and don't recognize who they see, it's a sign something essential has been left behind. But there's beauty in that too, because if it still hurts, it's because it still matters. If you still feel your voice has something to say, then it's not gone. It's just been waiting, silently, faithfully, tucked away, like a forgotten note in your coat pocket. And now, maybe it's time to open that note, to listen without rushing, to reappear in your own words, not as someone trying to prove anything, but as someone finally allowing themselves to be. You don't need others to validate you. You don't need to shout to be heard. You just need to start speaking what's yours, gently, truthfully, with the quiet beauty of someone who's realized they no longer have to shrink to fit. Today, say something that's only yours. Not to convince, not to teach, but just to be, even if no one hears, even if no one replies. Because when you speak with presence, the world listens, even in silence. And you listen too, to yourself, like you haven't in years. Life is still here. You are still here. And there's still time. Time to listen. Time to care. Time to return home. to the one inside your chest that's never stopped waiting for you. You still have time to come back to yourself and to remember it's never been too late to be yours. That's it. If you felt this content touched you at any point, give it a like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you, and see you in the next video.